From the Lincoln Journal-Star, this is the Life in the Red podcast with Luke Mullin, Amie Just, Brent Wagner.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Life in the Red podcast. Luke Mullin here today, joined by Amie Just and Brent Wagner, talking Husker volleyball, as always, with you two on the pod. We're here. We're at the end of the regular season, postseason time. How you guys feeling? We made it.
We did. We made it. And going to be an eventful 3 weeks of volleyball coming up.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's, there's this season where we've talked a lot about how there's more good teams, there's more parity, and now it's just exciting to see if that carries over into the NCAA tournament and what that Sweet 16 looks like, what the Elite 8 looks like. Is it all the same suspects, Penn State's, Texas, Wisconsin's, Nebraska's, or does an SMU get in there, or a Minnesota? Minnesota's been a Final Four team in the past, but, they're not a top 5 team at this point, a team like Minnesota. Creighton, obviously, a lot of people will be watching to see what they do. So yeah, it's just exciting to see how it'll end up.
Absolutely. We will be previewing that NCAA tournament field today. Nebraska already knowing where they're going to be playing here at Devaney in Lincoln and who they're going to be playing with that bracket decided. But first, let's talk about how the season ended. Nebraska 29-2, Big Ten champions, did not get the chance to run the table undefeated, lost on the road at Penn State, but then defeated Maryland, won that share of the Big Ten title with the Nittany Lions. Just what did you make of those two matches? The tough, match that Penn State gave them, and then being able to get the job done against Maryland next week.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State has had a great season. Nebraska, couldn't transition to kills quite as well as they have in the past. Caroline Jervis, just the former Husker, had a great match. Probably her best match of the year, which, it wasn't a surprise, I don't think, to certainly Nebraska's coaches and most of their players, but, they couldn't stop her early in the match, kind of on some of those line shots, and she got some momentum, and, she was probably a little motivated to play Nebraska, a little extra, and obviously, but they were playing for a Big Ten championship too, so their entire team was. And then, Maryland match, a little shaky at the start, but, when they got it rolling there in the final 3 sets, it was really, really impressive and clinched the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, just how about the achievement for this team? Obviously they would have set out to do it at the beginning of the year, but so strong, for throughout this conference play, getting that job done, 19-1 in conference play. That is really tough.
Yeah, it's really difficult. John Cook said at Big Ten Media Days earlier this season that if you make it through the Big Ten unscathed, if you have a perfect Big Ten record, you're like the team of the century. That didn't happen, and it hasn't happened in a non-COVID affected season since Penn State ran the table over a decade ago. Hasn't happened. I don't know if it'll ever happen again. It is incredibly difficult, and this is the toughest league to play in. 9 teams ended up getting into the NCAA tournament. That's half, for those doing math at home. Half of your conference got into the NCAA tournament. It's incredible. And so being able to make it through Big Ten play, 20 matches with only 1 loss, is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, talk about no easy matches, no easy nights when half the conference is a postseason team. So yeah, definitely impressive achievement for Nebraska to get that done. And as we look at some of the accolades coming in for them at the end of this Big Ten season, 5 players named to the All Big Ten team: Merritt Beeson, Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, Bergen Riley, and Lexi Rodriguez. Obviously all outstanding seasons, but just to, shout out 1 or 2, just who do you think really impressed you with their play this season?
Lexi is so good, so talented. If there were ever a libero to win National Player of the Year, I feel like it would be her. I don't think it's going to happen. It's never happened, and I expect that drought to continue. But man, she has done an incredible job, and it's going to be hard for Nebraska just to envision what life will look like without her. And then Andy Jackson, what an incredible rise for her. She has continued to improve. She's one of the most efficient hitters in the entire country, not just the Big Ten. and her block is getting better. She's getting more confident. I have a feature coming out on her tomorrow, which kind of goes into all of that, which I'm really excited for people to read. And then Harper. We didn't know what this season was going to look like for her just after everything that happened in the off season. How would that affect her on the floor? But man, she's been playing with so much joy. That's been really fun to see.
Yeah, definite standout. And Brent, you look at those five, who pops off the list at you?
I mean, all of them at different times. Merritt's had some matches where Nebraska might not have won if she hadn't come alive late in the match. Andy Jackson's just, her consistency has been impressive to see her make the jump in consistency from last year to this year. And Lexi, I mean, you could have made a case that I'd be interested to see if she got any votes for Big Ten Player of the Year, just because, Sarah Franklin was really good, but probably not as good as last year. So I'd be interested to see if Lexi got any votes for Player of the Year.
Yeah, good point, definitely. And really, we can't talk about these all-conference honors without talking about the format for them. Amie, you wrote a little bit about this, but I think just the raw numbers on this is bizarre. 25 first-teamers, 16 second-teamers, no honorable mention, and a format that really doesn't reflect the actual number of players that are out there on a volleyball court.
Yeah, so it was like 18 last year, which I didn't particularly like, but, you deal with it. But now they added more to reflect more schools in the conference. And it just, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I think that there is a way to be able to recognize however many people you want to recognize. This is not the way to do it. This is, to me, it's diminishing and devaluing what it means to be a first team all conference player when you have 25 people on there. Yeah, I don't like it. I think there's a better way to do it. You can look at football. It's one for every position that's out there. Volleyball, you can obviously have 7, right? Because of the libero. But no, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I wish that they would change it, because I've said what I've needed to say, but it makes me really mad, because I think of people like Lexi and Andy and Bergen and Sarah Franklin. And yeah, those are like all Big Ten first team caliber people. And then they have to share it with people who didn't play as well. I hate it.
Yeah, I just think from a simplicity standpoint too, you look at this and it's like, I just want a simple, 7-person team, just to look at and be like, these are the best players in the Big Ten, easy to look at, easy to identify. Obviously, somebody's getting left out there. Maybe there are 2 players on that second team, should have been first team, but somebody's got to get cut at some point. And just from my personal experience, we make the all conference, the all state teams, here at the high school level, 7 players, it's a good representation, 5 hitters, setter, libero, if there's 2 outstanding setters, put them in there. It's a good way to gauge the talent of the conference. And I just think when you do that, it really does make it hard to identify if you're somebody who hasn't followed these teams throughout the entire year, who really are the best players in the league.
Yeah. And you got to be careful though, because it needs to be, for me, it needs to be by position. So 2 outsides, an opposite, 2 middles, a setter, and a libero. Because what you look at when you look at the numbers of who was on that All Big Ten first team, 11 were outside hitters. That's not reflective of, what a volleyball team is. You see so many, the hashtag justice for liberos exists for a reason, because they often get overlooked despite being one of the more valuable people, but they don't score points. So it's not as fun.
Yep. Defense wins too. Mm-hmm. So certainly, yeah, that was notable. You just look at that and it was kind of interesting, reaction, of course, from people. So wanted to mention that briefly, but all the focus here in Lincoln is, of course, on the NCAA tournament. Nebraska drawn as one of the top 4 teams in the field That means they do get to stay at the Devaney until the Final Four. Got to keep winning to do it, though. And there is some tough competition coming Nebraska's way. The opening round action this Friday. It starts with Miami against South Dakota State. That is 4:30 p.m. And then Nebraska will play Florida A&M at 7 p.m. And these NCAA tournament openers, they've treated Nebraska pretty well, but a little bit of history there against Florida A&M, huh?
Yeah, they beat Nebraska in a non-conference match years ago. It's a little different than a lot of the teams that come in here in the first round. Sometimes it's a team that has only been. Sometimes it's their first time in the NCAA tournament. Sometimes it's second or third time. These guys have been in the tournament 13 times, including just a couple years ago that gets sent to play at Florida. Pretty good defense and serving, it looks like. Obviously, the competition isn't the caliber of the Big Ten, but looks like that's kind of a strength for them. So, yeah, we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I think, all respect, obviously, they're going to take that opponent seriously, but certainly that's one that you expect Nebraska to take care of business, sweep that team. That's what they tend to do in that opening round. And looking at them, who they would take on after that, Miami, South Dakota State, who do you think is going to win that other matchup?
Yeah, I actually really like that matchup. It's going to be fun for a first round. South Dakota State has played really well this season. Their 2 losses have come in 5-setters, including one where the fifth set wins to extra points. So I don't know. It's going to be fun. So if you can get to Devaney early to watch that one, I would.
Yeah. And, extrapolating, obviously we don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to look ahead in the NCAA tournament. But looking at the potential path there to the Final Four that Nebraska would follow through its regional, Baylor, Wofford, and South Carolina, Dayton, those are the other teams that could potentially meet Nebraska in the Sweet 16. And then the other seeded teams in that side of the bracket, Wisconsin is the number 2 seed, Arizona State the number 3 seed, Texas A&M and Georgia Tech also seeded teams. Obviously, a lot of history there with Wisconsin, but who kind of stands out as some of those other teams to watch in this bracket?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech's definitely, they've proven it the last couple of years. They've had a great conference season. They could knock somebody off. And Arizona State's obviously played a very good schedule too. So there could be some surprises there, I think, before you get to it.
Yeah, Amie, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like Arizona State. I have that Wisconsin-Arizona State match circled. If it does get to that point, of course, I think that could be one of the more fun matches before the final weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we look at this NCAA tournament, run for Nebraska, there's no secret about their goals, right? I mean, Harper Murray made that very clear after the national title game last year. They want to go all the way and win this thing. So let's talk about both the good and the bad. What's going to contribute to that run, what's going to limit Nebraska. First, the good side. This team, they've won a lot. They've done a lot of things at a high level. What do you think is going to help them get the job done? What are the strengths that could let them go all the way?
They have to make their balance a strength, which they've done a fair amount of time, but they've also had some matches where they didn't get enough from the second outside hitter or the right side hitter. So just continuing to make their balance their strength. I've been really impressed with how they have pretty good starts to matches. I mean, Nebraska's had teams that were really good that just didn't start very well, and then you're behind. They've done a pretty good job of coming out and winning first sets, so it lessens your chances of getting into a 5-set match. And the defense has come on now to a little better than earlier in the season, and they've been really good at, like, when they get matched up against All-American level outside hitters, they've been able to slow those people down, and those are the people that can win matches for you in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Balance, like Brent said, is the number one thing that I'm looking for. And then just to go back to a John Cookism, serve and pass.
Yeah, good. Definitely. They've done a good job of that. But you look at the bad, obviously they had a run of, serving miscues there earlier in the season. If you were going to identify in this Nebraska team, what do you think could hold them back? What are the problem areas they need to overcome?
Yeah, my brain goes back to the national final last year when Texas just had them completely rattled in serve receive. Any team facing Nebraska has watched that film. So that has not been as glaring of an issue recently, but that's one that I worry about in the NCAA tournament.
Mm. Anything stand out to you, Brent?
I mean, they have some rotations that they've been tough to get out of. Teams have been able to go on 3, 4, 5-point runs, and if you get in a 5-set match or something in an NCAA tournament, those can definitely haunt you. So, just getting a little better in a few rotations.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it's prediction time for you two. I'm putting you both on the spot here. You look at this bracket. I want Final Four and national champions. Let's start with the Final Four. Who do you think is going to make it out of these regionals?
Yeah, so my Elite 8 matches, I have Nebraska over Arizona State, Penn State over Creighton, Pitt over SMU, and Louisville over Stanford.
You even gave the Elite 8. You're going extra and above.
Well, because it's really chalky, and so I wanted people to know that my bracket is not completely chalk. So yeah.
Well, the best teams are the best teams for a reason, and certainly some of those 1 seeds have had a lot of success. Brent, similar Final Four picks?
Pittsburgh, Louisville, Creighton, Nebraska.
Ooh.
All right. Wow. And from those 4, who does it? Who wins it all?
I have Nebraska over Louisville, but that Penn State Nebraska match could be quite the event.
Yep. Brent?
Nebraska over Pittsburgh in 4.
All right. Wow. So both of you predicting Nebraska to go all the way. I mean, that is certainly, a testament to this team's quality. And also, I mean, just what are your thoughts on the mindset of this team? Obviously this is a goal they've been going towards all year since that last national title game.
Yeah, this is a goal that they want. This is something they want so badly for the seniors, especially, for Lexi, right? Would feel wrong if she finished her Nebraska career without a national title. So they want it real bad. And I think they can do it. It just depends on what version of them shows up on any given night.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that journey starts this Friday at the Devaney. Again, that is 7 p.m. or so. Nebraska will take on Florida A&M. Expect lots of excellent coverage from the two of you over the next few weeks as Nebraska does go through that NCAA tournament run. All the updates and all the coverage, as always, will be there for you at journalstar.com. But that'll do it for today's episode of the Life in the Red podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's Life in the Red podcast. Our theme music is composed by Sasha Indy. The stories continue on journalstar.com.